Everyone, and welcome to day 2 of lesson 2.4. Today we are going to talk about using slope to identify parallel and perpendicular lines. So reminders from yesterday, we talked a lot about slope, rise over run, finding slope given 2 points. Reminder, horizontal lines have a slope of 0, vertical lines are undefined, and we've talked about the slope-intercept form of equation y equals mx plus b, where again the m is our slope and our b is the y-intercept, where it's touching the y-axis of our graphs. So, and again, we know that if our parallel lines are rising and running the same amount, they would never intersect. So we know what is happening is that the slopes of parallel lines are going to be equal to each other. On the other hand, our perpendicular lines are going to intersect each other to create these right angles. Now, the slopes of them are, when we have perpendicular, we call those opposite reciprocals. And basically, what's happening is when you have an opposite reciprocal, you have a fraction who its opposite reciprocal would be the flipped sign and the flipped fraction. Basically, they multiply to equal -1. So again, you would look at something like 3 and -1/3 would be opposite reciprocals because, again, they would multiply to equal -1. Or another example would be like 6/7 and -7/6. Flipped sign and flipped fraction. One is positive, one is negative. Multiplied equal -1. That's an opposite reciprocal. So if we look at two given slopes, for instance, this one's -5/4, -4/3, would these lines be parallel? The answer is no, because their slopes are not the exact same. So if we look at this figure here, line M is right here. We're rising 1, running 1, 2, 3. So we would have a slope of line M would be 1/3. Line Q, then if we look down below here, find a point, we rise 1, run 1, 2. Oh, sorry, it looks like we're rising actually even more than that. Looks like we're probably rising 2 and running 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So again, would these be parallel? The answer is no, because their slopes are not the exact same, and we know to be parallel, their slopes must be equal. Now we also can use our slope formula to find the equation, the value of our slope using the equation. These are these points. So you have x and x, y and y. And if we calculate the slope, -6 minus -12, and then we're going to divide that by 19 minus 15. So -6 minus -12 is the same thing as saying plus 12. We have -4 here. So when we add them together, and of course always reduce, 6 and 4 are both divisible by 2. And then we have that -4, which could just be written out front. So -3/2. In our second bit here, again, change in y over change in x, -4 minus -6, all over -2 minus 2. So that's the same thing as saying -4 plus 6 and -2 minus 2. So that would end up equaling -4 plus 6 is 2 over -4. And again, this time we are going to reduce to be -1/2. So what we see on this one is, again, would these slopes be parallel? The answer is no. The slopes are not the exact same. So we cannot say that our lines are parallel. Next below, we have one for you to try. Find the slope of line 1, find the slope of line 2, and then decide, are those lines parallel to each other? All right, we also want to be able to check for those opposite reciprocals, the perpendicular. So for instance, we had the slope of line J was negative 3 halves, slope of line K is positive 2/3. So again, those are opposite reciprocals. We can always double check, do they multiply to equal -1? The answer is yes. So we would say that those are perpendicular lines. So down below, we should look at these to analyze H and L. They're telling us H has a slope of -2/3. Line L has a slope of -3 halves. Would these be opposite reciprocals? Are they perpendicular? Same idea for lines K and M. They're giving you K as a slope of 1/5, M as a slope of -5. Would these be example of opposite reciprocals? Now again, we want to be able to calculate our slopes for these lines, and again, stating the slope and being able to identify what would a parallel slope and a perpendicular slope look like. So we are going to take our two y values, subtract them, take our two x values, subtract those. We get 2 plus 5, 6 plus 2, and we subtract that negative. We end up with 7/8 would be the value of our slope. So a parallel slope to that is going to be the exact same thing, 7/8. The perpendicular would have to flip the sign from positive to negative, and then flip our fraction to be 8/7. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll work more with these in class.